This week on Head to Head, the Obi Wan series gains some steam. We look at Snoke versus Palpatine in today's Duel of the Fates, and the Clone Wars returns, and it's all coming to you right after this.
You're listening to Head, a Star Wars podcast. Two fans, two generations, all things Star Wars begins now.
Hello, everybody. I'm Eric Fansel.
And I'm Darryl Sanders.
And we're your hosts for this podcast.
Hey, man, so did you know, like, The Mandalorian may actually be getting, well, season 2 may actually be getting an early release date?
What?
Yeah.
No, this is actually kind of funny because I did not hear about this.
Yeah, there's been a lot of...
Like, for real. Like, I know sometimes, you know, when you're doing these podcasts, you know, you're playing these... It's news to me.
Well, you know what? I was looking online, and there were some things that were being said about the season 2 of The Mandalorian, which is a show that, of course, you and I both love.
Oh, yeah.
And they've actually been talking about there might be an actual early release for that, and they're actually working on maybe possibly doing some teasers for the upcoming season about where Baby Yoda is up to now these days.
What, already?
Well, not this
Well, so
early.
wait, well, when is it coming out? Because... So originally it was supposed to be October. That was what they had announced. And you're saying that they came up with something earlier?
Well, depending on when in October. So it may either be like late September, maybe.
You didn't get this off of Reddit, did you?
No.
Okay. I had to check, man. Reddit's like the Wikipedia of, you know.
No.
Okay.
So,
even though some of the stuff for the show I have gotten off of Reddit. But that's only because they make interesting discussion topics. That's all.
But yeah, so that's actually kind of cool that they're actually talking about that. And for you WWE fans out there, Sasha Banks is rumored to be on season 2 of The Mandalorian. So that should be interesting to watch because we already had Gina Carano. So now we have...
Yeah, and it's kind of cool that they're doing that, actually, because it's kind of like, why not use people who are athletes or athletic or whatever to really do a lot of these stunts and, you know, do the action stuff? I think it adds more legitimacy to the whole thing.
True, especially like when you got people who are used to kind of like combat type stuff anyway. So MMA are stars or wrestling where it's kind of scripted fighting anyway. So they're used to it. So that's sweet.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know what made its appearance at some point in The Mandalorian on Tatooine, right?
What?
The Cantina.
Yes.
I mean, come on, guys. You knew I was going to do it, right? That's right. It's time to go to the Cantina. It's time to talk some Star Wars with you guys. And, of course, you, my friend.
Yes,
so
sir.
what do we got first?
All right, man. So Marvel released a new comic that is actually set in the post-Empire Strikes Back time period. So in between Empire and Return of the Jedi.
That's really rare.
Exactly.
I have to say this. I mean, I didn't even mean to cut you off, but I have to. I have to cut you off. I have to say this. The whole post-Return of the Jedi...
Now I know how Luke feels.
Empire... Yeah, right. The whole post-Empire Strikes Back thing is very, very rare. Like... There's not even really that much between A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back, which that's honestly an era that I would like to see more of.
Definitely.
For some reason, that era really fascinates me.
Oh, yeah, I can understand why.
But it's between the Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, honestly, we've gotten almost nothing off of that.
Yeah, well, the cool thing about that is because, like, you know, that's after the first... You know, the big cliffhanger of Luke, I am your father. So, you know, you got to wonder, like, how Luke is dealing with all this, you know, where the Empire is and how, you know, everybody's kind of transitioning to getting to the point of Return of the Jedi, where Luke is, of course, you know, way more powerful in the Return of the Jedi. But
well, and how he gets that way, because if you think about it, when we left Luke, he was basically just coming off of his battle with Darth Vader. He had only left Yoda pretty much moments before that. So it wasn't like we really had anything. We never saw anything of his additional training. What led up to this whole super powerful Luke that we see in the beginning of Return of the Jedi? Yeah.
So in this particular comic, they actually return to Cloud City with the trio of Lando, Leia, and Luke. They actually return back to Cloud City. Luke is going back to look for his lightsaber.
Which Maz ended up finding somehow.
Exactly. So apparently, like, he finds, like, he's looking for, I guess it's like in a pile and a bunch of Ugnaughts kind of find it. And then, Leia, she goes to Cloud City because her big thing is she wants to figure out how to decarbonize Han. So in that situation, she herself ends up getting frozen in carbonite.
No way.
Yeah. So it's like...
Well, wait, what series is this?
This is a Marvel series.
Yeah, but I mean, is it... Is it just the general Star Wars series? And
Yeah, Star Wars.
They do that.
It's called Return to Cloud City, I think.
Okay.
And then
We'll have to look for that then.
And then, of course, Lando goes back to try to save Lobot because he's kind of like captured. Yes. So you get your boy Lobot back in this.
Lobot is back. The actor that played him sadly passed. I don't remember how long ago it was, but I know we covered it on the podcast, though.
He kind of reminds me of Mr. Hum from Star Trek.
He does. He really does. But the thing is, what makes this really interesting to me is the fact that in the new Darth Vader series that I talked about last time, or one of the last two, they explored pretty much the same time period. This is after Empire Strikes Back, and we're looking at how Darth Vader is handling the whole Luke Skywalker as his son and taking revenge on all these people who he feels anyway are responsible for hiding the information.
Nice.
So that's a really great. If you guys haven't checked that series out, that would be cool. It also sounds like this series is.
Yeah, it sounds like it's pretty cool.
And what's funny is it totally snuck up on me.
Yeah, me too.
I had no idea that this was coming out.
Yeah, I just happened to be looking up some stuff.
Star Wars podcasters.
And then,
News to us.
Hey, man, you just kind of scroll through some things and it's like.
It's funny how that happens, though. Because if you think about it, a lot of times we'll get just saturated with, like, say, The Mandalorian or The Clone Wars or something. We'll get saturated with all this, okay, it's coming up and here's all this stuff. Something like this comes up. Nothing. Well, yeah. I didn't hear about it anyway.
Well, that's the thing, though. It's kind of like, you have all these different things. And that's the thing about Star Wars being so broad now is because now you have, all right, now that the movies are done, but now you have all these different TV shows and different, mediums and books and comics and things that are coming out, theme parks and all this stuff. So there's a lot of information that's coming out. And so, yeah, it's very easy for something to kind of like, if you're really not paying attention, it could slip by you.
Yeah. All right.
But that's really cool.
What do you guys think? Are you guys excited for this comic? I know I am. Like I said, I'm just finding out about it. Seriously. Right this second, I am just finding out about this. I'm looking forward to checking this comment out. And if you guys have checked it out, let us know what your thoughts are in the comment section. All right, what do we got next?
All right, so could our favorite baby be getting his own movie? Yes, good old Baby Yoda. So...
Really?
We can't get enough of them. It's funny. Somebody actually sent me, they texted me. It's like, hey, Build-A-Bear, they do a lot of the Star Wars stuff. And they're actually doing a Baby Yoda. I got my
girlfriend a Build-A-Bear for Christmas. And then I read that they came out with a Baby Yoda version.
A Baby Yoda one, yep.
I'm like, can I get one?
Yeah, I know, man. So, of course, everyone can't get enough of Baby Yoda.
But, I mean, a movie, though?
Well, I'm not saying his own movie in that regard.
But you just said his own movie.
Well...
You just said Baby Yoda is getting his own movie.
I said, could he be getting his own movie? In a sense of, from a certain point of view.
Yeah, that's later.
Yeah. But from a certain point of view, he could be getting his own movie because, whenever he's in the movie, he's the star. I mean, because you have the Mandalorian, but he's the star.
But what's he going to do? Is it going to be like Boss Baby Yoda or something?
Well, no, I think what it is they're actually going to take some of the plots that's going on in the Mandalorian.
Okay, and expand on them
into a movie form.
Right, because we really don't know where he came. I mean, we know that he was basically the... what do they keep calling him?
The child. Well, they keep calling him the child.
Yeah, but it wasn't the asset or something like that?
Well, originally, yes.
Yeah.
Asset.
Okay, so it was kind of like we saw that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. We didn't even know who he was until like the second episode or something of The Mandalorian. So they kept referring to him as that. So obviously, he's been in play. He had been discovered.
Mm-hmm.
I could see... I hesitate to call it a Baby Yoda origin story, but essentially, like, where did this come from?
Yeah. Now, I remember you and I were talking about that, that particular species is very, very, very rare. And so...
Well, and not only that, but George Lucas himself didn't really want to go into too much. He had purposely said, I don't want to reveal too much about Yoda's species.
Right.
So I'm thinking that either... Well, of course, he doesn't own the thing anymore, but he has been helping quite a bit on The Mandalorian, though. So that tells me that he's pretty much loosened his grip on that, or now he's willing to tell that story, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, and it's cool because I think if that particular species is so rare, but of course, it seems that particular species, all the ones of that species that we know of, are particularly strong with the Force.
Yeah.
Yoda, Yaddle, and now Baby Yoda. I think it's just like you can understand why an empire or a regime would be interested in trying to have one of these.
Well,
around.
I was thinking too, and I've heard little rumblings about this off and on, but I was thinking that if the Emperor is still around, which of course we know he is, one of the things that he would want if he's going to rebuild his empire is some sort of a force. There was a theory actually that they were going to use Baby Yoda to help reanimate Palpatine's corpse or whatever. You know how he's still sucking the life force out of Rey and Kylo at the end and everything, and it gives him finally his full form.
Yep.
Maybe the whole Baby Yoda thing was where he got the initial life force. Because Baby Yoda's not around by the time of, well, we don't know that, I guess you could say, but he doesn't appear to be around by the time of Rise of Skywalker.
True.
Which makes you wonder what happened to him. This is what happens whenever Star Wars starts introducing characters. You know, it's
that's
one of those things.
But would you want to see something like that? Like, would you want to see like them expand that into a movie, or would you want to just keep it at the series level?
I think they should keep it at the series level, honestly.
I do too. I think you can explain more, and I think
my whole thing is too. You don't have to make a movie out of every little thing. But then again, I know that sort of goes back against what I had said at one point, where you can introduce a lot of these characters, and anybody that latches on to the general public, which Baby Yoda certainly has, let's face it, you could then explore in a movie. In that sense, I don't think I would be against it, but at the same time, I think that they have to work on seeding out and expanding the Star Wars universe a little bit more before they start latching on to somebody. Because if you think about it, they got to tie up a year or two with these movie releases. And I would like to see them explore a different direction for the movies, at least at first. Seed out all these different characters through Disney Plus. 4 or 5 years down the road, then let's start to see some movies based on some of these characters. But again, I don't want Disney to start thinking with dollar signs. Like, oh, Baby Yoda's caught on, let's make a movie out of him. Right. Again, that feels too rushed. We'll get into it later with our from a certain point of view discussion. But with the High Republic stuff, they're doing that correctly. And I think that's, if they had approached the sequel trilogy this way, I think that we would have had a whole different Star Wars experience.
That's true.
But what about you guys? What do you want to see a Baby Yoda movie? I mean, look, we all know he's cute. We all love Baby Yoda.
He's cool.
He's cool. So do you want to see a movie? Or do you want him to stay at the series level? Let us know in the comments section. All right. What we got?
So next, man. So something that you have been longing for a long time has finally come to pass, of course. And that's we know that ObiWan Kenobi is getting his own series. So there's been a couple of things that have been coming out. One is that they actually kind of have a working title for his show.
Now, let's back up for a second. Because, again, you put these things together, so you sometimes you actually read up on a lot of this stuff before I get a chance to. The first thing that I need to review, and I think we should probably do this for our audience too, is last everybody heard, Obi-Wan series fired all its writers, and, it was delayed. Now, it wasn't delayed for, years or something like that. It was probably realistically months. But still, that's the last I heard. Now, all of a sudden, you're saying that all this stuff is coming out.
Well,
what happened? When did they fix it?
Well, I don't know. They haven't really given that timeline. I know Kathleen Kennedy, she kind of wanted to kind of smother that fire a little bit because, of course, everybody's thinking that, like, okay, great.
Lucasfilm needs its own fire department at this point. Let's be real. Yeah,
she was thinking, that a lot of fans would probably think, like, oh, my goodness, problems with Obi-Wan, and yes and no, but it's not like, as you said, it's not been delayed that much. It's only been delayed maybe about a month or two. But the cool thing is that they have brought up is that they have a working title, which is called Pilgrim. Now,
the John Wayne jokes are going to be flying on this one.
So that's the working title that they have so far. And the clue or the hint that everybody's kind of going with is that Obi-Wan is going to of course, he's kind of gone into hiding on Tatooine, and this pilgrimage that he's going to do is actually to Jeddah, which is going to tie in Rogue One. So he's going to visit Jeddah because he's kind of like in that, you know, if you really look at the events, of course, he lost Anakin. All the Jedi were slaughtered pretty much. And his religion, his whole life that he pretty much dreamt of it as a child is now gone.
Yeah.
So he's going back to his origins to kind of like almost like find some solace, trying to find his way again. What should he do? He knows he has to watch over Luke, but he's now, you know, without Yoda around to kind of help him out and guide him. He's going to go start looking for other artifacts, hopefully find other Jedi if he can.
Well, that could tie in actually, because first of all, it would make sense for him to do that.
Yeah.
It would also give us more adventures than just what would be on Tatooine.
True.
And then it also would, because if you think about it, he's turned into like this wizened old master by the time we see him in A New Hope. Mm-hmm. He would have more knowledge at this point between what he knew in Episode 3 versus what he knew in Episode 4. You could tell there's been some growth there.
Definitely.
But it's like, how? I mean,
I was just going to say about how.
At first, it was, okay, he's communing with, you know, Qui-Gon Jinn and all this stuff. But at the same time, there has to be more to it than that. Mm-hmm. Now, you add to this, you brought up the whole Rogue One scenario. And we know from A New Hope, Leia's message about how she wanted to bring Kenobi into this battle because he served in the Clone Wars and on it goes. They did reference that a little bit in Rogue One. Because remember, I think it was Mon Mothma that said to Bail Organa, like, oh, your friend.
Oh, your Jedi friend.
Yeah, your Jedi friend. It's time to bring him in or something.
Yep.
That obviously was the catalyst to then have Leia make that message and deliver it via R2-D2 to Kenobi.
And we're on our way in New Hope, yeah.
Exactly. So this could provide some rich background. And this is the kind of thing that I always say I want to see in Star Wars. I get the argument that everybody says about, okay, we need to expand the universe. We need to move beyond these characters. And I totally agree with that. I'm completely on board with that. But at the same time, you have such a rich universe and you've created a bunch of wonderful characters and stories. Why not create a few stories that enrich some of the ones that we already have as well? And I think that's what this series does.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I loved Rogue One, was because,
exactly,
you know, that was a whole story. And it's like, okay, the way that they fleshed that whole thing out, where there were no Jedi in that, it was just simply a flat out war movie. And we've never seen that in Star Wars before.
Exactly.
But the payout to it was massive, because both at the box office, and figuratively speaking, when you're looking at like, okay, flushing that whole story, I'm like, all right, you know, how did they get the plans? And now you see how all that transpired. And it's like, man, you see why there was such a sense of urgency for this thing.
Well, and it's
on
a great
both
example.
sides, for the Empire and
absolutely
and the Rebellion.
I was going to say, it gave you a more humanization of the Empire too. It showed you their inner machinations and things like that. And of course, if you read the book Catalyst, it's even deeper. But I think that this is a prime example of A New Hope, which already existed. Rogue One is nothing more than a giant enrichment story.
It is, yep.
For A New Hope. It gives you all this background. And look at how great it was. I mean, every Star Wars fan, at least that I've talked to, and including a lot of people, no one really bashes Rogue One.
No, not at all.
Everybody's pretty much like, yeah, Rogue One was cool. Now, you'll get people that feel, you know, some love it, some maybe like it, but nobody really hates it. The
cool thing about Rogue One was the fact that it pretty much used characters we've never seen before for the most part. Yeah,
wasn't that incredible how it did that?
But at the same time, you sprinkle in just enough of original trilogy characters.
Yes.
Tarkin, Leia, Vader, you know, we've heard of Saw Gerrera through other mediums such as the Rebels or Clone Wars.
Clone Wars is where he first popped up,
yeah. But, you know, so you get that, but you're not even so focused on him because he's gone pretty much within like the first 10 minutes of the movie. And
again, you get a little bit of that's fan service done right. You get a little
bit.
They announce General Syndulla. They give you the ghost, and you see Chopper go by. So for your Rebels fans, you get that. You get a few other little things here and there, but they're not detracting. That's why I have such mixed feelings about certain elements of The Rise of Skywalker, because the fan service was just so on the nose. It's like, guys, okay, we get it.
Right.
Let's not be too nostalgic here. But, yeah, Rogue One was something done right, and that's what I'm hoping that they can do with Kenobi.
Yep.
Well, what about you guys? Are you guys looking forward to this? Do you like the title? I'm just hearing the title for the first time, so it's sinking in. I think it makes sense. I don't know if I love the title, but it does make sense to the story. So let us know what you guys think of this new Kenobi series coming up. Let us know what you think of the title in the comments below. All right. You know what time it is.
Yep. Time to pull out the swords.
That's right. What do we got?
We got Duel of the Fates. All right. So this week, question. Who is more intimidating, Snoke or Palpatine?
Ooh. Well, you have to address this. I know this is one of those like, oh, here we go. Can't you just answer the question?
No.
It's got to be a backstory.
No. I purposely picked this because there are a lot of nuances to
There's
this.
incredible nuances in this. First of all, you have to look at, are we asking this before we see The Rise of Skywalker? Now, you could say the reason why I say that is only because we find out, obviously, that Snoke made him. So,
I mean, Palpatine made Snoke,
yeah, Palpatine made Snoke. So that really puts Palpatine at way more intimidating. It's, look, if you can make this, then you're really powerful. But let's just, and the reason why is I just want to frame this discussion. So I'm thinking, let's take this before we knew that in The Rise of Skywalker. Let's just pretend like we're going back to the end of The Last Jedi.
Okay.
Because I think that that's a more fair comparison. If we take Snoke as who he was, the leader of the First Order, I'm still going to go with Palpatine.
Okay. Why?
Because there was a menace to Palpatine. And even though Snoke, definitely, I felt Snoke was extremely intimidating in The Last Jedi, especially when the scene in his throne room with Rey and everything. He was demonstrating some power, obviously, that was like, whoa, this guy's pretty powerful, pretty intimidating. He had like this really kind of gnarly look, but there's just a commanding presence that Palpatine has. There's just this absolute conniving evil. Like, you just feel that Palpatine's more powerful than just about anybody. And even some of these previous Sith Lords that you see, your Darth Banes, your Darth Plagueuses, all this stuff, there's just something about Palpatine that you're just like, you could probably beat these guys. Even some people that maybe on paper he technically can't. You just get this really creepy old wizard feeling. Snoke always felt to me like he was, I don't really want to say like a pretender to the throne kind of a thing, but he was obviously second fiddle, if you want to put it that way, to Palpatine, to me. Okay.
Well, ultimately, I think you and I will both agree that ultimately Palpatine, of course, is more intimidating. However, I think that Snoke is actually more intimidating than Palpatine, simply because...
Yes, a real duel.
Simply because I think that Palpatine 1 has always been in the shadows, which in and of itself can be intimidating because you really don't know who's pulling the strings, really. But at the same time, though, it's kind of like, well, what you don't see can't hurt you almost. So when you're looking at Snoke, one, his sheer physical presence, he's very tall, he's creepy looking, and you really don't know much about him.
Well, that's exactly, this is where I'm going to start to agree with you a little bit here, because one of the reasons why I could say Snoke is because we know so much about Palpatine. We know his whole backstory. We know everything about him, and we see even though he was kind of a conniving, person or whatever, Snoke we know almost nothing about, and that makes him kind of scary.
Well, I mean, the fact that Palpatine created him, even though I know we're not supposed to know that, but yes, okay, Palpatine created Snoke, so we kind of do, because it's like he's not going to make anybody better than him. But
right,
the thing is, I think what I'm looking at is from the standpoint of you.
Yeah, but how powerful in the Force do you have to be to create Snoke?
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like,
I mean, when you we all look at Luke Skywalker and his incredible astral projection trick in the Force, and everybody's talking about Force healing, and look at Rey, and she could do all this stuff. I'm like, yeah, okay, this guy created this ultra powerful Force being.
Yeah. Well, don't get me wrong.
There is
like,
that.
That's what I'm saying. Like, ultimately, we all know it. The buck stops with Palpatine.
Well, and you did say though, and to be fair, I want to frame this for the people that are watching, in case anybody wants to attack based on this. You did say intimidating. You did not say more powerful.
Exactly.
Who's more intimidating? So I think that we have to keep
that in perspective.
Yeah, we have to frame the discussion around that. This isn't who's more powerful, because that's obvious.
Now, don't get me wrong. Like, if you go back to Return of the Jedi, we know when Vader says, when the Emperor arrives, and the guy's like, the Emperor's coming here. Like, he looks freaked out, and he's like, yes, and he's most displeased with the apparent lack of progress. But I think that no one even really saw the Emperor much. So it's like, okay, you knew Vader and how powerful he was, and you've always said this, like, okay, well, how powerful, we know how powerful Vader was. Who's holding his leash?
Exactly.
And so that
You're
makes
right.
him,
I think that's
that makes him
pretty much
intimidating.
Like, oh man, well, if this guy's listening to him, then I really don't want to mess with that guy.
Exactly.
But I think you also have to look at, and you've read some of the comics and a few of the novels or whatever, and that's really where you get, I think, more of a picture of his intimidation.
Yeah, with Snoke though, the thing about Snoke is, especially when you see it in Last Jedi, of course, like, he pops up and he drags Hux like all over the bridge of his own ship in front of everybody. Yeah, that's creepy. And, you're thinking from the standpoint of like, okay, now don't get me wrong, Vader's choked out people in front of other folks. And so in a way, like, Snoke is like another Vader, but just at a higher level.
Yeah, but, and that's the thing, because Palpatine's fried people. He's actually, I can't remember if it was a novel or what, but he disintegrated somebody with his lightning right in front of all the troops. I mean, there's reasons, particularly if you read Lords of the Sith.
Yeah.
You definitely start to see.
Yeah.
But again, it's very easy to take this discussion into a power discussion versus an intimidation discussion.
Yeah, but I think,
just look at this.
Yeah, I mean,
really, they're both kind of frightening, to be honest.
Yeah, like the things you don't want to see in your dreams at night. But I think Snoke, just his sheer presence, his voice, his the thing about Palpatine is that he always appeared to be like this frail old man. Yes, he's creeping. He's powerful, but he just looks like an old, weak man. Whereas Snoke, he still can walk around, and he's got this tall presence that he carries with him.
He was definitely intimidating in The Force Awakens. We're all like, oh, is this guy like some 30-foot tall creature or something? It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, and then of course, like when we first saw the fact when he like shot lightning through the floor and hit Kylo, we were like, holy crap.
Yeah, it was pretty funny, actually.
So I'm like, okay. Yeah, this guy's no joke. And then of course, like, yeah, he's whipping Rey all over the place, chucking her with, lightsabers at her. So, I mean, yes, his sheer appearance and presence, I believe, is more intimidating than, say, a Palpatine. But I think Palpatine, his intimidation is more implied, simply because he went by the name Emperor. And then, of course, he had Vader walking around and everybody knew how powerful he was. So it's like, okay, well, who's holding his leash?
Yeah, I could go with that.
So I think Snoke has more of a physical, intimidating presence. But I think,
maybe we could do that. Maybe Snoke is more physically intimidating, and Palpatine is just more like
he's like that ominous intimidation.
And pretty much like reputation.
Yeah.
And of course that comes from his power. Everybody knows Palpatine's power. Whether it's political power or Sith power.
I didn't even think about the political side, but that's a great point.
You know?
That's a very great point.
What about you guys? Who do you think is more intimidating? You think it's Snoke? I mean, you know, you look at these guys, could be anybody, really. I wouldn't want to meet either one of these guys in a dark alley anywhere, but hey.
Unless I had a lightsaber.
That's right. So just leave a comment in the comment section and let us know. All right, what do we got next?
All right, so now we have From a Certain Point of View. That's right. Certain Point of View time, ladies and gentlemen, and this is where we talk about our featured topic. And this week, the Clone Wars return.
Finally get a return of the Clone Wars. Now, I have to, in full disclosure, thank goodness you only really referenced the first episode, because I haven't had time to see the second one yet.
I've gotten almost through it.
Really?
Yeah, I've watched.
So what is it? What's it like?
It's cool. It's
Is it a kind of a continuation?
Yeah, it's
of
a continuation. Yep. I was about to say it's
because the Clone Wars always did this whole story arc thing where they usually take like 2, 3, sometimes even 4 episodes, and now of course this, I forgot how many episodes. There's not going to be that many episodes of this season.
Yeah, I think it's only like 10
or something. Yeah. So I mean, they can't really do like 3 episode arcs or anything like that. But Clone Wars is definitely known for taking a little bit of time with their stories. So it's basically the continuation of the whole Bad Batch guys, and
yeah, there's some hilarious parts in this in the second one, especially when it comes to Obi Wan and Anakin.
So we actually get to see
Obi Wan and Anakin are in the second one.
Okay.
But in regards to the first episode, we know when we return, we have a Bad Batch. That's the name of the episode, and pretty much these gentlemen here are a bad batch of clone troopers. The clone troopers are pretty much, as we all know, just identicals of Jango Fett pretty much. But this particular batch of guys kind of had some genetic alterations, I guess. And
it makes me wonder, though, when I was watching this episode, it made me think of Boba Fett, where he wanted an unaltered clone. So you have Boba Fett, who's an unaltered clone. Didn't have the conditioning and, the obedience training and all this other stuff that the clones would have that would prevent them from having personalities. Yeah. Well, they had personalities, but I mean, they wouldn't turn against anybody. So, that is until Order 66, but that's another discussion. So Boba Fett was an unaltered clone.
All right.
And that way, Jango was able to raise him as a son, and he would have his own personality. These guys were more like defective clones.
Yeah, they're defective guys because.
So it's really interesting to see that dichotomy in a way.
Yeah, I mean, and quite frankly, essentially these guys are like the A-team.
Yeah. I mean, that's totally what it reminded me of, too.
They're pretty much the A-team.
They even have the same kind of humor and banter that they have with each other.
Even like the personality, because you got like Hunter, who's pretty much like Hannibal. He's kind of like H and H, see? Yeah. And, so you got...
Please don't tell me that Filoni was actually thinking of the A-team when he created these guys. He probably did,
especially the way these guys, act. I mean, it's like...
It's true.
You got like Wrecker, who was pretty much like BA. He's kind of like the muscle of everybody. Then you got the tech guy.
That would be... it's Dwight Schultz's character. It's not Murdoch.
Murdoch. Yep. And then you got the other guy who's pretty much like the sniper. And so, these guys work as a really cool, cohesive team, but the reason why they're so effective is because they use very mercenary type, tactics.
They don't follow a particular battle plan either. So
yeah, they kind of just wing it, or they
vary it up.
Yep.
And they actually analyze, I think anyway, their enemy or whatever it is, and figure out what it is they wouldn't expect, which... That's not always the easiest thing to do.
Yeah, they kind of have like this weird kind of guerrilla warfare type of vibe to them, where it's not so much a linear progressive thing. So,
well, the funny thing about that to me is the fact that they've done storylines before where they've had almost like rogue clone trooper type of things or whatever. But this I thought was actually a very unique spin on the whole thing. It's probably the best way to put it.
Well, yeah, I mean, and the whole thing is really cool. The whole story in itself is awesome because, once again, like they're the clone. I mean, not the clones. The the battle droids pretty much are able to like kind of predict all the things that they're doing. They're like, how are they beating us? You know, it's like, it's almost like they know what we're going to do before we do it, but how? You know, so then that's what's kind of gotten them kind of confused. And of course, Rex is kind of like looking at himself like, well, maybe I'm not as good of a leader anymore. You know, so he's starting to have some self-doubt about himself.
Yeah, I thought that was a really great. It's funny how you sit there and you think about where are they going to go with the Clone Wars? Because that was the whole thing there's so many different areas they can go in, and I'm sure they're going to explore a lot. I'm sure we're going to see a lot more of Ahsoka pretty soon and everything. But I thought in particular, just when you look at Episode 1 of the Clone Wars, not Star Wars, basically it's showing you a progression. The clones have been at war for a while, and like you said, you start to see, well, here's a clone that's starting to doubt himself. And here's another group of clones that have learned to, because they had defects or whatever, they actually banded together and formed this really effective team, which also sends a really good message.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool because like they really don't, one, they don't look identical to each other, and then like, just not even in the face, but just physical presence, because Wrecker is like huge. And then, you know, you got like the other guy, he's got glasses, and, you know, so yeah, it's weird.
It's really kind of a cool thing that they're doing. And I think that ultimately they needed to go somewhere a little bit different, especially because I don't really count season 6 because I know that was cobbled together from unfinished episodes or whatever. There was only a few really truly finished ones. But it's really interesting after that incredible season 5 that they had.
Yeah.
It was almost as if you're going to try to do a season 7, you better really make it good.
Yeah, you got to bring it.
Yeah, you got to bring it. And of course, Filoni's the guy to do it.
Yeah, and I think with this whole, at least the series of events so far has been really cool. And then, you know, we find out at the end of this episode that, spoiler alert, at the end of this episode, that they kind of hypothesized that one of their fallen comrades who they thought was dead is actually alive, and that's how they've been actually being able to beat them.
And it was actually one of the more famous clones
Echo.
too. Yeah, it was Echo.
Yeah, because Echo and Rex pretty much came up with the battle plans. So that's kind of like how.
Now, do they start to explore that further in episode 2?
Yeah. So now they're at this whole point where they go to this planet, and now they're trying to find Echo to see if he's really out there. So they go to this one planet that's kind of has like these weird, it's like Jurassic Park almost, because it's like a weird yellowish like mustard seed color planet, but it's got a bunch of storms and dust and things like that. And
of course,
but you know, they take the Bad Batch with them again, and they're on this mission with with them, but now Anakin's with them. So now it's like, okay,
that'll be interesting.
Yeah, it's really cool.
See Bad Batch
with Anakin.
Yeah, that's
that's right up his alley. But the cool thing about the second episode, which I really thought was awesome, once again, I love the depth that they try to bring into the characters. So there's a scene where before they deploy on this mission, Anakin goes up to Rex and he's like, "Hey man, we got to do that thing before we leave." And Rex is like, "No, we don't want to do what thing?" So he's like, "The thing." And he's giving him that look like, "Come on." And he's like, "What do you?" Then he kind of realizes what it is. He's like, he's like, "No, we don't have time for that." So it's just funny to see in that type of relationship. And so what it actually ends up being. So of course Hunter is just like, "I'm gonna let you guys work that out. I'm just gonna kind of."
It's like, "Hey man, I don't know what you guys
got going on here, but I'm gonna just get on the ship."
Swords play here, and
so basically what it ends up being is, and I kind of figured it, but it was cool to see, was that Anakin basically went into Rex's barracks and he had this pod thing, hologram pod, and it was just a time for his date time with Padme.
Right.
So he just wanted some place secluded to talk to her. So she's like, "You're late." He's like, "Oh yeah, I know, but this is going on." So he's doing the typical boyfriend trying to explain stuff.
That's cool.
Yeah, and then Obi-Wan, of course, stumbles upon, Rex, and Rex is like, "Oh crap!" So he's trying to like knock on the thing, like, "Come on, man, get out of there." And so he's like, yeah, where's Anakin? He's like trying to cover for him. So it's like you're having Rex as your wingman now, which is hilarious. So
that is cool.
Yep. So that's pretty much where I left off. So,
well, I mean, and I'm hoping that this season, and I have no reason to doubt that it will, but I'm hoping that it continues with the same quality, because the Clone Wars really is something that's another Star Wars property that's been fairly untouchable from criticism. Nobody's actually gone off on it or anything like that. I mean, well, except for the movie. We all hate the movie. But the series, though, has gotten progressively better as each season goes or progresses, and that's what I'm really hoping for 7. I hope that by the time I've seen all the episodes in season 7, that I could say, wow, what a stunning season. It actually was better than 5. That's what I'm really hoping for. That's a really tall order, I admit.
True.
But that's exactly what I'm hoping for. But what about you guys? What do you think of season 7 so far? Is it meeting your expectations? Is it maybe not living up to your expectations? There's a lot of people out there that might not like this as much. Now, my advice would be, remember that it's only 2 episodes in at this point. So let's not get too critical, but what are you guys thinking so far? Let us know in the comments section. Ooh, it's time for my favorite segment.
Yes, it is.
Because I like to answer you guys' question, and it's a little segment that we call Clear Your Mind. That's right. It's time to clear your mind. Who's first?
All right. The first question comes from Mr. Harry Watford, and his question is, can you guys rank the members of the Jedi Council and what special talents did they possess?
Ooh.
This is a hard one.
Yeah.
And you know what? I was like, you know what?
Remember all the guys from the Jedi Council. I mean,
so here's an
Kit
idea.
Fisto, Plo Koon, Yaddle, Yoda, Mace, technically Obi-Wan, Ki-Adi-Mundi. Ayla Secura wasn't on the council, I don't think.
And
there's some woman that I thought was on the council.
There is. And who's the guy with the head who just, it's like...
the little... The little
metronome.
Yeah. Wow, that's a good point.
But you know what? Here's what I was going to think. I was thinking, you know what? This would be actually a good segment to actually do.
That would be a good segment to do, especially when we have more time to think about it.
Yeah, we can actually delve into like the council and actually...
delve into the council. That's a good idea. It's a kind of cheesy because this poor person who was the one that asked the question. My mind's gone.
Harry Watford.
All right, well, yeah, because here's the thing. It's like if he's expecting the question to be answered, I could say this. I could give you like the top 4.
I can give you like a couple of them. Kit Fisto was a great swordsman.
Yeah, without question.
Ki-Adi-Mundi was more of a strategist. He was more the thinker, philosopher.
Right, he was like the philosopher. He was sort of... And Yoda, of course, embodies all of them.
Yep.
And he's the most powerful, followed by Mace, naturally. Mace is more of a warrior kind of guy.
Yeah. He's brilliant at strategy, actually.
Strategy, yep. He's a good all-around guy. That's why Mace is the number 2 guy in the council. Mm-hmm. Like you said, Kit Fisto. And Plo Koon's a great pilot. Maybe not so much at the end, but... Well,
he got shut down, so it wasn't his fault. Pilot, but he was also...
well, he was actually a really good warrior, too.
Good warrior, and he was very wise. Like, he has his wisdom, being able to... and then he was able to assess people's...
See, this is why I was so bummed out by the fact that they wiped out the old expanded universe. Mm-hmm. Because they had a lot of really great expanded universe novels about the council guys. Yeah. And they really haven't delved too much into them yet in new canon.
No, they haven't. And
that's a shame, because at this point you do have the movies, obviously, but you're still thinking like, okay, all the stuff that I thought was more or less canonized has been wiped out, so they need to come up with some new stories. And they technically, the closest that we've come is Dark Disciple. Again, hands down, one of my favorite Star Wars novels of the new canon. And it does deal quite heavily with the prequel era characters.
Yeah.
I mean, primarily Quinlan Vos and
Asajj
Ventress. But there's Mace, I think Plo Koon's in there a little bit. Mm-hmm. There's some council members that are in there, so if you are really wondering about the ranking of the whole Jedi Council or whatever. That's a really good book to start with, at least in the new canon. Other than that,
yeah, we have to actually do a show.
Yeah, we have to do some research on that one. But those guys, I always have a soft spot in my heart for the the Jedi Council because
they were cool.
They were, and I think in a lot of ways, and they were underutilized even by George. I mean, I hated the fact. I get it that they have to do this, but it was how easily they were dispatched by Palpatine.
Mm-hmm. Well, I just think they were overwhelmed just because of everything and the fact that, you get used to a certain thing. They weren't expecting it.
Well, that's true. I mean, not to mention he did that like really weird spin around his desk, and they're probably like, "What's up with that?" Yeah,
a little tornado move, and he's out. So
right. It's like a little Tasmanian
Palpatine.
Sith.
Tasmanian Sith.
All right. I think we thoroughly butchered that question. What other questions can't we answer on this show?
We'll see.
What's the next one?
Wait, there's more. This next one comes from Robert Cuso, and he asks, if all the clone troopers are identical, how do they determine the ones with the leadership roles? Usually the leader has more knowledge. So
you're asking some hard ones this week.
Yeah. So it's like, all right. Because that is a good question, because if they're supposed to all be identical.
Well, but they're identical as far as programming, but it stands to reason if you're actually programming soldiers, there's probably a leadership package, and then normal, because I mean, if they're starting out, if you think about it, if you watch Attack of the Clones, they go through and they show you the training and all this other stuff. Now, just because a clone's identical doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to have exactly the same aptitude. They're going to have mostly. I would liken it almost to twins.
Yeah.
It's the same kind of thing.
Yeah, I think they just have.
They breed them for that.
Yeah, they just select some, and then they're like, okay, well, you're gonna, we need X amount of leaders for this battalion. Yep. These types of all right, we got like an aerial assault guy. Okay, he needs to be focused more on aeronautics and flying planes and jets and stuff like that. It's the
same way you tell twins apart. As far as the other half of the question, not to mention that those guys started to develop somewhat of their own unique characters to where, their hairs would be a certain style or they would do something else.
Yeah, or they had they
just had characteristics, so you knew it was them.
Yeah, and they're like, I mean, even with Cody, Rex, then they also were distinguished by the colors, the orange or the red striping on their uniforms and stuff like that. So
you do have to wonder, though, if they ever try to fool people and...
I'm fives.
Yeah, exactly.
But they even you even can tell even some of the clones had their own personalities. Like you said, some was a little bit more aggressive than others. Some a little bit, And of course, when you clone things, there's going to be some anomalies
there's
somewhere.
Still going to be, absolutely, and that's the thing.
Perfect. It's just
exactly. They're going to have the same genetics, the same DNA, the same everything else, but there's still going to be variances. That would probably be the best way to put it. There's variances within, and then you also have slightly different programming, which if you took, say Cody, because he was a leader.
Yeah.
Let's say you didn't give him the leadership programming, you gave him, something else. One of the other ones, it would probably affect his personality slightly differently.
Well, yeah, and also you got to look at it too this way. It's almost like having kids anyway. So
sure,
you got some kids get certain stronger traits of that parent. Okay, you're really like your dad in this area versus in this one you might be more like your mom.
Yeah.
So something's going to.
So there you go.
Yep, there it is.
All right, that's it. So. Thanks, everybody. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the show. Hopefully we answered at least some of these questions. It's man, there were some hard questions and clear your mind today. It cleared my mind. But anyway, leave a comment below. Let us know what you guys think about anything that we talked about today. As you know, we do this show for you. We love talking to you guys. We've had some great conversations with a lot of you guys. So until next week, I'm Eric Vansel.
And I'm Darryl Sanders.
May the Force be with you.
Always.
Head to Head, a Star Wars podcast. Be sure to follow us on Twitter @HeadToHeadSW. Submit your questions for our next show. Visit our official website at headtoheadswpodcast.com. Until next time, may the Force be with you, always.